Welcome to Talk About Topeka. I'm Chris Schultz. On this episode, we're taking you on a journey through history. It's a big piece of our history here in Topeka. It's the Brown versus Board of Education historic site. Let's go check it out.
Hey Chris, welcome.
Hey Dave, how are you doing?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having us. We've been really wanting to get out here and check out everything at the Brown versus Board of Education Museum. And will you be our tour guide?
I will be your tour guide. You've come at a very good time. Is this your first time?
This is my first time here.
Oh,
actually.
And you're from Topeka. That is pretty
I
bad.
know, right? And that's what we're trying to stop. We're trying to get people who live here to get out and get over here.
So you just walked into history right now. You walked into a place where it all started, the end began to happen right here.
Okay.
So this is Monroe Elementary School. This was one of the 4 all-black schools here in Topeka, and it was, well, it's where Brown versus Board of Education kind of began. You know, Linda Brown was a student here back in the early 1950s, and her father was approached by the NAACP with one idea, to end segregation in education. Now, when you walk into the museum and you see a sign that says white and a sign that says colored, you know, that was not the case. You know, we use that just to kind of hit people over the head because, you know, you and I were born into a world that did not have that kind of institutionalized segregation.
Yeah.
But for folks that were here back in the 1950s, they knew that when they went to a restaurant downtown, if they were black, they went to the alley to get their food. They didn't go through the front door. If they went to the movie theater, they went to the balcony, and they were kept away. And if you were a student, you knew that when you were in elementary school, you went to a place like Monroe Elementary if you were black.
It's just hard to believe that some people still alive today lived through all of this. And, you know, the world's really become much better because
there's no doubt about that.
Progressive.
When folks come here, we like to give them an introduction to a little bit of the civil rights movement. So this is our auditorium, and we have a number of films that go constantly in there. What happened with segregation, and where African Americans have been historically in the United States.
I love how history just surrounds you in there.
Yeah.
It's very technological. And
When this park was created, Senator Dole was the sponsor for the legislation, and he was very excited about this story. And he, at the time, you know, was pretty big guy in the Senate. So we were able to get a lot of this really high-tech stuff that, you know, would have been very difficult to get at a lot of other parks.
It's our history, folks. So get out here and see this. Let's go on to the next place.
It sounds good. We've got this great exhibit right now that was created by a woman over at Washburn. I don't know if you've met Jennifer Marsh yet.
No.
Because she had this brilliant idea. She got a Saturn V rocket donated to her. Those are the space rockets.
Yeah.
And her vision is to take this instrument and to completely shroud it up in quilts made by children from around the world with images of freedom and equality.
Wow.
So we've been working with her. We've had a lot of our school groups, you know, create some of these quilts, but these actually come from all around the world, from Russia, from all around the United States. Kids making these really cool quilts. For her to wrap around this rocket is a major art project. Let me just take you into the kindergarten room. It's a kind of a reflective room, and it's been a reflective room for the last 10 years or so. But we have a vision. A lot of the kids, a lot of the adults, a lot of the people from Topeka that have been coming in here said, I want to see a classroom. I want to see a place that actually looked like a classroom in 1952. So we are going to be remodeling this over the next year.
Yeah.
We've gotten some grant money to do that and create a 1952 kindergarten classroom in here.
Wow.
And what's neat about that is this was one of the first kindergarten classrooms west of the Mississippi, especially for black kids.
Yeah.
You know, because the idea, separate but equal, held true in here in Topeka, and if the white kids were going to have kindergarten classrooms, the black kids were going to have them as well. So this was designed, you know, with a fireplace, you know, a very kind of home-like atmosphere. There was a little teeter-totter in here. There's a sandbox for the kids to play in.
Wow.
Lots of small tables to do crafts on. They had their own special bathroom in here, so they were kept away from the rest of the other kids.
Wow.
Very kind of homey thing. So this will be the last time you see this room looking like this, probably, as we begin to make some major changes.
That's cool. When can folks expect to see those changes?
So we got to start buying some stuff by the end of the fiscal year. So in the next few months, we're going to get the slate blackboards put up on the walls.
Cool.
We just acquired these 2 prints right here. This is from the old Lincoln Elementary School, and this is an image of the Emancipation Proclamation being signed. It was the kind of image you would have had in an all-black elementary school up on the walls back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Wow. So we just got that. Local citizen, Joe Swalwell, found it for us, and he was able to provide it for us. And then we have the picture of Lincoln that we got too, that would have been in a classroom at the time. So this is the Legacy Gallery. This is what happened as a result of the Brown versus Board of Education decision. So Topeka was the start of some pretty amazing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
This really got the ball in motion.
Well, we love Topeka here, but it's for other reasons. It's just more reasons to love Topeka.
We can be proud of the fact that we faced a problem and we overcame that problem, and we continue to work towards a better place for everyone, a very inclusive place for all Americans. This is the Pass It On program, which is a wonderful video that tells the story of African Americans fighting for years and years and years to get to where we are today. And that the battle's not over, and that there's still roles for young Americans that they need to play in creating civil rights for everyone and equality for everyone. Music played a big role in change. It played a big role for slaves as they began to make their way onto the Underground Railroad. It played a big role in African American churches, and it definitely played a big role in the civil rights movement. So we have sound stations set up here that go over protest music from the time period. We're getting this redone right now. We're going to have kind of sound cones that come down from the ceiling, so that we can actually do it with larger groups of people, and then our educational rangers actually can do it with kids out here, and they can sit down and we can do music programs in here.
Very cool.
So our legacy today, so what's happening today? You've got, disabled Americans, fighting for the Americans with Disability Act. You've got, Native Americans, fighting for all their issues and rights too. Today I was just reading in our park newspaper about one of the tribal parks that's being created up in North Dakota. So Indian land that has been stolen or taken away, the Park Service recognizes that, and so land is going back. And this park will be operated jointly between both the Indian Nation that's there and the National Park Service.
Excellent.
So change continues to go on. I think in Kansas's case, the reason why we have this weird split personality has a lot to do with how the state was created. Mm-hmm. It was the free state, but you had a lot of folks here that wanted it to be a slave state. You had Bleeding Kansas, and a lot of that legacy, just carries on. I'm new to Kansas. I'm new to Topeka. I've only been here for 2 years, but I hear it again and again from folks. A lot of animosity across the border with Missouri. Maybe it's mostly football and basketball, but still, there's
well, there is that.
there's a lot of this, free state, slave state thing that you still pick up on.
Yeah, it's just people not understanding each other. Is that not wanting to understand each other?
Well,
the overriding
I think
here.
Your culture and your background has a lot to do with who you are as a person. I've met people who I care deeply about, but they were brought up in an atmosphere where their parents brought them up where racism was all right. Yeah. It was all right to be anti-Semitic. It was all right to be homophobic, and they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So those things are hard to break.
Yeah, they are.
So this exhibit here is intended to really put someone in the place of being a student back in the 1950s and some of the things they would have experienced. There are images from the University of Alabama, from Little Rock, footage from the busing boycotts that took place in the 60s and 70s that a lot of kids today would never see. There's language in here that they would never want to hear or never actually want to hear, but we feel it's a really important way for them to become part of what actually happened.
To see exactly what it's like. Hopefully none of this stuff will be tolerated in today's world.
I hope not.
But we're still not. We still have battles,
Yeah. So I'm really proud of our exhibits. I think our staff has done a great job putting them together. We try to keep them as current as possible.
As far as like local school children, like where are they coming from to see this exhibit, and where, what are they feeling when they're here?
Well, for a lot of them, it's they can't imagine it because they come from a world that's quite different. Yeah. The idea that there was segregation, it doesn't make any sense because their classmates right now are from Vietnam and from Laos and from Mexico, and they're African Americans and they're Jewish and they're Catholic, and for them it's incomprehensible that because they were brown or black they'd be in another school.
Yeah.
But they do see, well, like with bullying, they see at school that some kids are treated differently because they have disabilities, or because they act differently, or because they have an accent, for whatever reason, they're from a single parent household, or maybe their parents are gay, and so they treat the kids differently.
Right.
And then they were able to make the connections. Oh gosh, should I be treating those kids differently too, just like they were doing it here with the black kids?
Yeah.
So
it's quite a lot to say that the grown-ups have a lot to learn from their children now. And learning these lessons, the way that the children are able to accept and exist together, and I think there's a lot to be said about
right.
that. Our education system has changed, and still got work to do, but we're doing pretty good now. So
I think we are.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and then the classroom visits that we've been doing are exciting. We're working really hard on that, and it's all paying off because our visitation numbers continue to grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. As we reach out to more and more communities. You have people in Kansas that really believe in things, and I think because of that, it might be the kind of place where civil rights issues get addressed. So
it's kind of a melting pot.
we had some visitors at the park today. They came out here specifically. They got off the highway specifically so they could go to the Equality House that's just across from the Phelps Church.
Yeah.
Because they thought this is something they wanted to see, and they feel strongly about it. I have groups come to this park because they're like, wow, this is where it all started, because they have strong convictions, convictions of the heart, and they want to see where segregation began to erode and fall apart.
It does seem to be something that Topeka should be able to be excited about, mm-hmm. and to kind of pat themselves on the back for, whether you agree with the stuff or not.
Kansans are very, very humble. I will say.
They are very, very much so, very much so. But you know what? We're doing some great things in Topeka and right. Kansas. So remember all the lessons that that we've been going through here, and get out here and see the site. Dave, thank you so much for taking me around. I really do appreciate that.
Just a reminder: this and all national parks in Kansas are free, and we're open most days of the year. We're delighted to have you here. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
Absolutely. It's the best free entertainment I think is around. So thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate that.
No sweat.